What's up, guys? Chris with Cyberchat here, getting ready to do one of our first toy reviews, and it is on Transformers Generations Megatron, one of the newer figures to come out in the Generations line. He looks pretty good in the packaging here. Let's see what he looks like outside of the packaging. So yeah, he's pretty cool. Got some landing gear here. I always like landing gear in my my flying bots. He's one of those little one-wing plane kind of deals, kind of like Scourge from the earlier Generations line. Though you can kind of tell what's going to happen with Scourge. I mean, this guy, even when you look underneath him, you can see his arms right here. But past that, you really don't know what's going to happen to him, and he's not the most intuitive of bots. But I like that in my bots. I like them to frustrate me a little bit, and this guy frustrated me. He's a nice figure, but I have to say that the instructions are probably the worst instructions I've ever seen. I mean, it gives you steps you don't need. It doesn't give you steps you need. We'll talk about that when we get to the transformation, but first, I have to read you this guy's bio. Now, this is not going to be an all-time thing. I'm not going to, an all-the-time thing. I'm not going to read bios all the time. But whoever has been recently writing Hasbro's bios have been to Corny Town. But, you know, we all know Megatron, so there's nothing new this can tell us. But whoever wrote this was awesome. There was a time when those who wore the Decepticon badge did so with pride and not fear. There was a time when the name of Megatron was honored by many across Cybertron. He was a scholar, a warrior, and a hero, fighting for the freedom of the oppressed. But power inevitably corrupts, and none are so powerful as mighty Megatron. Long ago, he forgot he was a hero and became nothing more than a tyrant. And to me, that just screams Megatron. We're going to go ahead and get to the transformation. So to take him to robot mode, the first thing you have to do is the wingtips have to come off. Now they're on a sliding joint in here, so you have to push them this way to get them to come off. Now, these little wingtips are going to go together to make his fusion cannon. And this is one of the coolest parts of the figure to me. The first thing you need to do is pull up this little peg here, and that'll go into his arm. And then you plug the two halves of the wings together, like so. And then you take these two ends here, and you pull them down, and it will extend the cannon out. And that's pretty cool to me. And there's his fusion cannon. And we'll get back to that in a minute. We'll get on to the main figure now. What you do first is you loosen up his arms here, and you kind of pull them out like so. And then you just kind of try to find something to do with him while you work on his legs. You just kind of pull his legs open. They post here and here, so you kind of pull them out. Now this is, the legs is where the instructions really lose everything, because they don't tell you when you're taking him to his plane mode that you have to fold his kneecaps in. And if you don't fold his kneecaps in, he's not going to plane mode. So you open his kneecaps up, you rotate his legs down like this, and again down, around and down I should say. Spin it around, and they also tell you to fold these pieces in. Now they are on a hinge right here, so you think they would move somewhere, but if you fold them in anyway, they're not gonna, the legs aren't gonna collapse in on themselves. So they tell you an unnecessary step, a step that you can't use, and then they leave out a piece that you need. But anyway, you kind of pull his feet up like this to get his toes out, and his heels stay in pretty good. I like that. And that's pretty much, you got, it kind of does it on its own, but the pelvic joint is supposed to kind of kind of move out like that, so it'll give him what little height he has as a Deluxe. Now for his upper body, you unpeg up here for his arms, and you kind of pull them down, and then you take the whole thing and you fold it down like that, and that will reveal Megatron's head. And he's a pretty nice head sculpt here. Let's see what I can do by getting you guys a close-up. Yeah, that's definitely Megatron's head. But anyway, then you take the cockpit here and you fold it down, and it's going to get the arms out of the way. It's going to, you got some posts right here, you got some ports. It's going to peg in right there, like so. Got the Decepticon symbol right there. Now for his arms, you kind of open up his chest here, like so, and then you fold his arm. It's on this little joint right here. You got to fold that in, and then you kind of pull it back, and then you got a port right in there, and you fold that little post right in there, and it pegs in. You can bring his arm down. You kind of, it holds in fairly well, but it looks kind of weak. So I always like to put my hand on it right there when I'm, doing a lot with his arm, and then you can flip his hand out and do the same thing over here. Open this up, maneuver this around to go in there, fold that in just like that, bring his arm around, flip his hand out, straighten him up a little bit. We'll give him his fusion cannon, because Megatron is not Megatron without his fusion cannon. And there we go. So he's definitely a pretty impressive figure. He's supposed to have some light piping in his eyes, but he's such a small figure that it's not really, doesn't really pull off that well. He's pretty imposing, and honestly, he does look like, one of the best Megatrons I've seen. But the stature is wrong. He's too small. And I know he's a deluxe figure, and I know we've had a little bit of a problem with figures getting smaller over the years. I have Voyagers across many different lines, and you can just see them gradually getting smaller. But I will have to admit that these new figures in they call it the Thrilling 30. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with it by now. When they moved over to that, they seem to have been getting a little better, because the original second generations line that was, that came out with the Fall of Cybertron figures, they were pretty measly, and these, we'll admit, these have been getting better, and these look a lot better than those first figures that we've seen in that line. He does have a little bit of problems, mostly here with the shoulders. It's just kind of a weak joint the way it pegs in. I mean, it doesn't seem like that it's actually going to pull out, but it still just seems rather flimsy. And the shoulder, I mean, he has pretty good range of motion as far as that goes. He's pretty standard in that, but his shoulder just will not move forward and back. Now, it may supposed to be, my figure may just have some pretty tight joints, but he will spin here at the upper arm, has an elbow joint, both arms. His head will swivel. His head will not go up and down. It'll go up and down a touch, but mostly due to this piece here, it won't really go up and down a lot. And the head on my figure, the neck joint is kind of tight, doesn't really want to move, but he has a very free range motion hip He does have the knee swivel, the knee bend, and he has pretty good range of motion in his feet. So you can get a lot of, this guy has a lot of posability. It's just you can't really get a lot of the famous Megatron poses out of him. Well, I guess you could. You kind of do it like that, but his arm, because of that joint, now it could be just the tightness of that. There it goes. You can kind of get him, pointing his fusion cannon like that. And yeah, the fusion cannon, you can pretty much see straight through it. I wish they'd have made it where something would have folded and filled in this part up here. But I think it's still a pretty awesome cannon. I mean, some of the Megatrons we've had have not had a fusion cannon, so I'm very happy that he does have a fusion cannon. Overall, I would say he's probably, can't let Megatron fall down on the job. Overall, he's a pretty good figure. He's nothing. I guess you could say he's better than what we've come to expect out of Hasbro. The Voyager figures look amazing. The Deluxes, it's mostly because of their size that you just can't get a lot out of them. And honestly, I do think he should have been a Voyager, mostly because his transformation is so immaculate. And that seems to be just some problems that we've been having with Megatron, Galvatron lately, that it seems like it should have been a much larger figure that got shrunk down to size. And I know they released the Orion packs, and this is sort of a pre-War for Cybertron Megatron. It's almost like this is before he becomes the extreme tyrannical leader of the Decepticons. And we do have Orion Pax, who, if you don't know, is pre-Optimus Prime. Orion Pax is who he was before he was Optimus Prime. So I guess they kind of made them smaller figures so it could tie in better with the Orion Pax figure that they were doing. But I don't see a problem. They could have done. I haven't gotten Orion Pax. Honestly, he doesn't look that good. But I think they could have done them both Voyager figures. But I highly recommend this guy, even though he does seem a little bit on the puny side. He's a very good figure. If you see him in the box, he's awesome in the pose that they got him in, because he's kind of in a bit of a Kimbo pose, which is even more ridiculous with the fusion cannon pulled out all the way. Highly recommend him. If you find him, pick him up. Order him. Do whatever you got to do. He's a really good figure. Thanks for watching.